McAfee's lost his mind.
The Colts have the football. Tessa throws one over the intercepted. Marlon Jackson. Marlon got it. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl.
The rivalry is back on.
Good evening, everybody. We are For the Shoe. I'm here with Trev and Andy. We're waiting on Rob. He'll probably come on sometime during the show. We are here for week 2 of our roster cuts, our journey from 90 to 53. We have not yet confirmed if it's 55, so if anybody knows if it's 55 or 53, let us know. I've looked. I haven't seen any changes to the actual roster yet, so before we get started, let's go ahead and do our shout out to NFL Longest Yard, our 32 team group. So if you like to talk football without the trash talk, go ahead and join NFL Longest Yard. It's one of the best groups I've been in for the last few years. Let's go ahead and do a shout out to Sports Fanatics. This page is basically a news page, gives updates, polls, really anything, keeps you interactive. So if you like to just follow sports, go ahead and follow Sports Fanatics. And then our last shout out to DNR Breaks. DNR Breaks is the all-time best group I've been in for collecting sports memorabilia. I have a whole bunch of stuff from them. Matt Myers is on fire like always. And they do everything. They do basketball, hockey, baseball, football. So if you like to collect sports memorabilia for that. Also, the other main admin of that group, Dave, is a fantastic artist. I am waiting on some of his comics, his cover comics to come in. I'll have that next week to show you guys. If you like comics, go ahead and follow Dave Sanchez. Also, he is a phenomenal artist. Some of the stuff I've seen him draw, he's drawn a Ezekiel Elliott. It looks like he took a picture of it, but he actually drew it and showed it. It's pretty awesome. So
you should draw us.
So yeah, I was gonna talk to him about seeing if he would draw my kids. I have a picture I would love to see him draw, but I haven't talked to him about it yet. So, all right, week 2, right?
Week 2
of our roster cuts. This is going to be fun. I figured we can go straight into it this week, and when we have time, we talk about whatever else we want to talk about, right? So,
yeah.
This week, we are going to be doing defensive backs and linebackers. Before we get into that, DNR Breaks is also going to present our roster cuts. They are our sponsors this week, so DNR Breaks presents For the Shoes roster cuts. So last week, we cut
I think you said 12 people.
Yeah, last week we cut 12 players. Yep. Last week we cut Chad Kelly, Jonathan Williams, Bruce Anderson III, Farrod Green, Xavier Grimble, Matt Lengel, Rodney Adams, Ashton Dolan, DeMichael Harris, Malik Henry, Artavis Scott, and Chad Williams.
I thought we had cut Ian Bunting as well. Did we end up deciding on keeping him? That might be my mistake, but
yeah, I thought if anything beyond Jack Doyle, Mo Alley, and Trey Burton, we would have kept Grimble instead of Bunting. But
yeah, let me write.
I don't know.
Then that's my mistake.
No problem.
I will fix that. Let's see here. I'll fix that later.
So that
but it's written down here. So we actually ended up cutting 13.
All right,
My bad.
Okay, yeah.
So this week we are going to hit the defensive backs and linebackers room. Ashley says Jonathan Williams is a free agent. Not according to our roster. So according to the roster posted on Colts.com, he is still on our roster.
And if he is a free agent, then we called it.
Yeah, if he is a free agent, we called it. But according to Colts.com roster, he is actually still there in the running back room. So let's go ahead and start with safeties. Trev, go ahead.
Yeah, so safeties. Actually, my biggest thing about this, I'm really excited about Kari Willis. I think he really steps up this year. Roland Milligan, I think you said. I don't actually know much about him, so I'd assume he ends up cut. Same thing with Donald Rutledge. George Odom, he played a little bit for us last year. I don't remember much about him, but I know he did play. So if anyone ends up on the practice squad or as like a depth guy, it'd probably be him because you're definitely not cutting Blackman and Hooker. So I think that would leave us with Blackman, Hooker, Willis, and then Odom as a maybe guy.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy. Let's see what you got.
So one thing occurred to me. I don't know if I brought it up before on this show with the whole situation of not picking up Malik Hooker's option. I think it's possible we might sign him after this season, even though we probably would have done so if we were going to keep him. Because if we had picked up his fifth-year option, then we would have to actually set up a contract extension for him at the same time as Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, and Braden Smith, to name a few. Nyheim Hines, if we want to keep him long-term. So I could see us actually doing a front-loaded contract maybe at the end of this season for Malik Hooker. That's just my 2 cents there. So I do think we keep him. We got to keep Khari Willis because he was starting to make impacts as a rookie last year, and we like good defensive rookies. Justin Blackman, I think we wouldn't have drafted him when he's still recovering from an ACL if we weren't planning on keeping him to see what he can do. And what George Odom sticks out to me as the guy who 2 years ago in 2018 got the interception against Dak Prescott to preserve the shutout against the Cowboys.
That's right. Yeah.
So I would like to see him stay as depth or practice squad personally, and then Rutledge and Milligan.
See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree because Rutledge and Milligan. I don't know much about them. I know Ashley is huge on Rutledge. I still don't know much about them, so I can see them going. My concern is we're all talking about Julian Blackman, so the safety room is probably a room that's not going to get touched as much when it comes to roster cuts, mainly because we already don't have much on the roster. So we've got, what is that, 6 on the roster currently. And Julian Blackman, recovering from ACL, he's not going to even play until October. So we're going to need some depth. I could see Odom staying on the roster at least until Blackman comes back from his ACL. Maybe Rutledge, of him being a rookie, if he performs well, he could stay on the roster until October. But I don't see us just keeping, Khari Willis, Hooker, and Blackman right now for safety. I think that would make it very difficult health-wise. Right. And we all know as Colts fans, our DBs are not very good at staying healthy. So it could either be we keep 4 to 6 of these guys, I think
when you bring it that way, I kind of want to keep all of them just for depth.
I agree, man.
I would raise to you too, though. The interesting part is we can get rid of guys like Rutledge and Milligan because we still have like Marvell Tell who can fall back to safety if he needs to. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think Jordan Glasgow played safety sometimes too for Michigan. So we have guys that can like transition to that if it comes down to that. Hopefully we wouldn't need to go that far down the depth chart, but we have guys that can fill that slot.
Right. So just for the sakes of cutting down to 53 at the moment, who do we want to go with?
I would say Milligan and Rutledge.
Milligan and Rutledge. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Even maybe just Milligan.
Yeah. I think he did play for us a couple times. I remember seeing him on the field, but a major irrelevance on the field. So I could definitely go with cutting Milligan. Rutledge, I could see being on our practice squad along with Odom eventually. So,
yeah, I do like Odom's game, and we got Kyle Stewart's coming up here too, saying the same thing. He did big things for us on special teams. I couldn't remember like how much I had seen him, but I recognized his name. I was like, that guy's definitely made some plays for us. So yeah, I'd keep him around.
Yeah, so I think the DB room is hard because a lot of these names are new.
Yep.
Odom has done stuff mainly on special teams, but then you got Hooker and Willis who were here last year. Even if you look at corners, you look at this list, you got Kenny Moore, Marvel Tell, and Rock Ya-Sin that were here last year, and almost everyone else is new.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So this room is going to be hard to cut because we don't know much about a lot of these guys. So again, with the safeties, I think it's going to be Roland Milligan and Donald Rutledge that'll get cut. If we do cut anybody from the DBs during preseason, because again,
Right.
with Julian Blackman recovering, and we're gonna need depth in that area.
For sure.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to corners. What you got, Trev?
Corners, I mean, you just said it. A lot of these guys, we're just not sure yet. But just going off of like who I really recognize and who I've seen play, I would take out Picasso Nelson Jr. I haven't seen him. I've seen Lafayette Pitts play. I don't remember much about him though, so I'd have him as like a maybe. Jackson Porter, I don't know him, so I'd have to get rid of him. And Travis Reed as well, but that also leaves us like a super thin DB room. So like just going off the guys I don't know, that's way too many cuts. But I don't know. Ultimately, I think out of cornerbacks, we probably only cut like 2. And if I had to pick, it'd probably be Picasso Nelson and Jackson Porter.
Okay, what you got, Rob?
Rob? I know.
My God,
I know.
Andy.
Don't worry about it. I know.
boy.
See,
Andy, my bad.
see, I want to keep Picasso on name alone, but that's not conducive. That's not the right way that the Colts should be going about it. So that's not the right way I need to be going about it. So I think maybe cut him. I also want to keep Lafayette for the same reason, but and then I don't know much about Jackson Porter. And can anybody say anything about Isaiah Rodgers, really?
So Isaiah Rodgers, in my eyes, is going to stay on our active roster mainly because of his ability on the special teams. He can take away a lot of the time that we use on Hines or Ty. Some of those guys that we've used on the practice or on the special teams. I think Isaiah Rodgers is going to step in and be more of our return man. So I think he actually stays on the roster.
I know Chris Ballard was really big on Rodgers too. I know he was excited about that pick, so I would expect him to make the roster.
Okay.
And he could do really well as a Kenny Moore backup in the slot, you know. So a good return man and a good guy for Kenny Moore. If Kenny Moore just so happens to go down, you have Isaiah Rodgers to cover those speedy guys that play in that flex slot role offensively. So
Yep.
Fair enough.
So
So I guess I would go with Porter and, much as it hurts me to do it, Picasso Nelson, just like Trevor.
I think I'm agreeing with you. TJ Carey is a veteran. Xavier Rhodes is a veteran. So we obviously want to keep those two. Kenny Moore is my favorite DB that we have.
Oh yeah.
So I'm keeping him, man. That obviously we aren't cutting him. I hope that man stays a Colt forever. And then you got Marvel Tell, which obviously we love Marvel Tell, and then Rock Ya-Sin. He's now a veteran, second year, and I think he has a breakout year at corner.
Oh yeah.
I don't know much about Picasso Nelson or Lafayette Pitts or Jackson Porter or Travis Reed, so I can just easily stick with Picasso Nelson and Jackson Porter with you guys, and go ahead and stick with everybody else staying on the roster, with Pitts being Pitts and Travis Reed being depth guys, and using Isaiah Rodgers as that return guy. I think is very important, especially to our offense, and giving Nyheim Hines, letting him keep his fresh legs.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
That is majorly important.
With the cornerbacks too, who do you guys think ends up being our best guy on the outside? Because obviously Kenny Moore is maybe the best slot cornerback in the game. TJ Carey, he's got a similar play style, at least from what I've seen. I think it's ultimately between like Xavier Rhodes and Rock Ya-Sin, but Rhodes last year, he didn't look that great there. He got burned a lot. So I don't know who our top guy is as far as like covering those deep threats.
So
that's
here's
a
my
good
question. I'm sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Andy. No, you're good.
Here's my question about Rhodes. Is there a cornerback setup where he's a little bit better, like say on the inside versus the outside, or is he just getting burned everywhere?
I think it's scheme wise. Whoever's calling the plays defensively, Rhodes. So if I compare Rhodes to like a Marcus Peters, right?
Okay.
Some of Rhodes' best plays come out of the zone. He's able to read and jump those those shorter routes, even those deeper routes. If you look at some of his best highlights of what he's picked off in the end zone, it's some deeper routes, but he's playing the zone as he's doing it. And it's the same as Marcus Peters, right? Marcus Peters was a stud in Kansas City playing that zone defense. Goes over to, I believe, LA and doesn't play that great because he's playing man coverage. He's getting burnt all day long. And then he goes over to Baltimore, and he played well again because he's back into a zone scheme. So
Right. And that's something Rhodes had talked about a lot too, is getting back with the coaches he's familiar with and just getting freedom. I remember he used the phrase being able to be myself again a lot and stuff like that. So that should be interesting to see.
Right. I mean, some corners aren't fast. You can't expect all corners to be fast, you know. I mean, look at Richard Sherman. He's one of the best corners in the league. I would say top 5, at least for the last decade. He's been solid. He got burned in the Super Bowl. Cool. He was playing man coverage. Everyone knows Richard Sherman is good as a zone coverage corner. So I think Rhodes could play really well, especially having Hooker behind him. But to me, I think Rock could have the best outside corner this season.
I agree.
I think he has a lot to prove. He was great coming out of college, and I think he could be great. Last year, he was a little he was trying to learn a lot of things. So I think Rock has a great year next year, and I can't wait to see what he does.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing you said, Matt, that I really liked was Xavier Rhodes talking about how he's getting back to, did you say what he's comfortable with or what he's best at?
Yeah, he talked about just being able to be himself again with the coach that we have here.
See, I like the sound of that because didn't we do the same thing for Justin Houston? And he was starting to become a little bit less productive in Kansas City because they had him more in a linebacker role, and then we brought him over to be more of a pass rusher, or as just a pass rusher, and he's like, I like this. This works to my strength.
Right.
See, and I like that you say that too, because a lot of people want to ignore the fact that a lot of players aren't playing in their comfort zone. You know, there's a what do I want to say? There's a scheme to things, right? So certain players fit certain positions, like linebackers. People want to compare linebackers. Who's the best outside linebacker? Who's the best inside linebacker? But can you really compare everyone together, right? Because they want to say who's the best linebacker. That's a very broad statement, right? Because you got middle linebackers in a 4-3 scheme. You got linebackers in a 3-4 scheme. Everyone plays something different, you know, and everybody has different tangibles. Some people are good at certain at coverage. Some people are good at stopping the run. So like Houston, he was taken out of his comfort zone for so long. But if you remember about 8 years ago, Robert Mathis was taken out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't remember that. He is a 4-3. He's not a linebacker.
Right.
Robert Mathis he's a DN. And a lot of people forget that because towards the end of his career, he was playing outside linebacker. He was standing up. And for most of his career, when we had him and Dwight Freeney, they had their hand in the dirt. You know, so even Robert Mathis had to get over being out of his comfort zone, which he did. If you remember, one year he had 16 sacks.
Yeah.
Playing in that 3-4 defense.
I think it was 19 and a half ultimately, actually.
I think it was too. I think it was franchise record or something.
He was out there
that year. But I agree. So a lot of these guys are coming back. I think Eberflus is very good at putting these guys in positions to excel.
Right. And that's
what I like about Eberflus.
I think our coaching staff in general generally does a good job of adapting to where our players are comfortable with. They don't try to force them into a scheme. They kind of let the scheme fluctuate around what they're good at already and then use that to the advantage. And I really like that.
Yeah, I like that too. And I think Frank showed that last year when Andrew Luck retired and was able to throw JB in there and
Yep.
win, 5 of our first 7 games. It is who would have thought,
Right.
And until injuries plagued us, so we could have easily made the playoffs, I think, So our coaching staff is phenomenal.
No doubt.
But let's go ahead and move over to linebackers.
Keep Darius Leonard.
Yeah.
Just going to get that out of the way.
All right,
Yeah,
go
No,
ahead,
he's
Trey.
been injured. He's never played a full 16-game season. We should cut him.
Yeah, get him out of here. No, ultimate, man, the linebacker
Who?
list might actually be the hardest for me. I like almost all of these guys. And I mean, I've seen almost all of them play at this point. They at least either on special teams or like getting significant time, especially like Matthew Adams, Zaire Franklin. I've seen these guys play now. It's hard for me to get right. Same with Sky Moore. The only guy I don't recognize here is Brandon Wellington. So I can't really speak to his ability. Man, it's hard for me to make a cut here. If I had to, I guess I'd go with Zaire Franklin, maybe Sky Moore, and Brandon Wellington. Those are probably the 3 up there for me. But yeah, this is a hard room for me. I really like all these guys that we have.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
yeah, go ahead, Rob or Andy. Whew, that's number 2. Eventually, I'm gonna be fired. Go ahead, Andy.
I gotta agree. I like all these names. Sky Moore, I'm not huge on because I don't know. Maybe it's just because he was with us in that 2017 season
Right.
where we were a train wreck just about everywhere. But I just don't. I feel like I don't see him doing much. But maybe that's not. At the same time, I think that's maybe not the most fair thing to him because maybe he's not doing much because everybody else is doing.
Right. Because it's such a deep room. Yeah.
Yeah.
But- I could
I don't-
potentially cut him, Brandon Wellington. I might maybe go with Matt Adams over to Zaire Franklin.
So?
So as far as I'm tracking, Matthew Adams is our starter.
Yeah. That's what I was about to ask. Didn't he start a
uh,
couple games for us?
I think he's on the depth chart as the starter next to Anthony Walker.
Right.
He's our Sam.
Ah.
So, but you don't see much of him, right? I haven't heard, like, I see him play, but I feel like he's overshadowed drastically by Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker, and Bobby Okereke. And
That's the
obviously
thing.
those 3 are going to stay. Yeah, obviously.
No doubt.
And I think we need to find a way to convert Bobby Okereke to that Sam slot. I really do. We're all very big on Bobby Okereke, and I think there's always been a big debate. You've seen me and Rob talk about it. I don't know. I think every week, at least once, between Anthony Walker and Bobby Okereke. But both of us come to the conclusion that we just love them both. I think Bobby Okereke should be converted to a Sam and let him start next to Anthony Walker and Darius Leonard.
Yeah, if he could pull off that conversion, oh boy.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Bobby Okereke is a huge talent, man. He actually surprised me with how much he was able to get into the backfield. I really like seeing that from him.
Yeah, and he's very good in coverage. And if you want a very good cover linebacker, I would put that dude at Sam in a heartbeat because that middle linebacker is usually that run stopper. So if you want that coverage guy, Darius Leonard is obviously a stud. That covering, he's got 7 interceptions in 2 years. Bobby Okereke on the other side, man, come on.
Yeah, and it gives us so
I
much.
don't know, man. You're not. It's not. It's not. And then you got Bobby Okereke playing behind Justin Houston.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And you got Darius Leonard playing behind Kamiko Ture, and then you got Anthony Walker playing behind DeForest Buckner.
Right. To me, our linebacker core is really what holds us together too, because we have a nasty defensive front now that's just mean and going to get in everybody's face. And then we have a young and developing DB room, but the linebackers are really like, they're the guys that are making these tackles, busting up plays in coverage. And especially with those 3 that we said, Leonard, Okereke, and Walker, like they really shine there. It just makes me wonder who that fourth guy is going to step up and be. I know last year we had Adams in that spot, but it's like you said, he got overshined a lot, or over whatever the word is a lot. So I don't know who really steps up there.
So, I think if we can convert Okereke, I think Matthew Adams, he's going to stay on the roster because he's a solid guy. So I think Adams could stay behind Okereke if we found a way to convert Okereke to Sam, which I don't see happening. My only problem is that Anthony Walker is in a contract year. So Anthony Walker is going to play, man, I don't want to lose him.
Me either.
As much as everybody wants Okereke to start at middle linebacker, I want him to start at Sam because I love the way Anthony Walker plays. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, he's got a lot of tackles, but he's not very good in coverage. And that's fine with me. As I was a middle linebacker, all through high school and all through growing up. I wasn't very good in coverage. I think I had one interception my whole damn life.
Yeah.
You
And
were proud of that interception, weren't you?
I fumbled it. Thank you very much.
That's tough.
I fumbled it. I remember it. I was like 13 years old. I got this interception. I went to return it, and some dude came up behind me and was like, boop. I was so mad. So mad. So upset. They made fun of me during film night. So, my one interception was a fumble. So I wasn't a cover guy, but I could guarantee you I was stopping the run,
Right.
And I think I'm just in that mindset that's what I expect out of a middle linebacker. So that's why I like Anthony Walker.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's like Anthony Walker, he was top 10 in tackles last year. He led us in tackles because Darius Leonard missed a couple games. And I want to keep Anthony Walker at middle linebacker and move Okereke. So if I'm cutting anybody, to me, I'm keeping Sky Moore because I think Sky Moore is stellar on special teams. I'm keeping EJ Speed because I think EJ Speed is a good backup to Darius Leonard. And I'm keeping Adams and Okereke. So I don't know much about Glasgow. I think he's going to have to compete really hard during the training camp because this area is very deep. And I think Brandon Wellington is getting cut.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
And Zara Franklin, I don't like him at all. All right, so we're all in agreement. Franklin, Glasgow, and Wellington.
Yeah, sure.
And potentially more. More is the potential fourth guy if we had to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write this down real quick. Yeah, we went through these cuts this week pretty quick.
Right.
Last week we were like going on and on. So let me ask you guys something, since now we still got like 30 minutes, 15 minutes for Andy, I believe. Wow, where did Trev go? His camera's not available.
And he's muted.
What did he do? He disappeared on us. You all right, man?
Yeah, I think I unplugged it. Oops.
Lol.
All right, so what competition are you looking forward to the most this training camp?
In general or just out of these three positions?
In general.
That's tough.
I can't just say all of them, can I?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, you can.
Actually,
if you want to.
So actually, yeah. Actually, I would go with Kari Willis. I think he's ready to really step into that starting role and be the guy back there. That's how big I am on him. I don't know if he's potentially competing with Hooker, but I think ultimately him and Hooker are going to be the top two guys, regardless of what order they're in. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Agreed.
I think I'm really looking forward to that competition at that number 2 wide receiver spot. I think everyone's handing it to Pittman because of where we drafted him.
Right.
But as a rookie, you're unproven, so you've got a lot to prove coming into training camp. You've got for one T.Y. Hilton and Zach Pascal. I mean, Zach Pascal was our leading receiver last year, and I don't think Zach Pascal is going to let that go. I don't think he's just going to be like, well, I'm just going to sit down and be this number 3 guy.
Right. Yeah, I think he's tasted that success and now he just wants more. And I mean, I hope so. Anyways, I hope he really gives Pittman some trouble. I see Ashley brought up Paris Campbell too, or Paris Campbell, however you say it. But
I think
I'm hoping to see something out of him this year too.
I think Campbell has a breakout year. I don't think there's any competition between Campbell at all. I think Campbell's going to be that number 3 guy, no matter what. I think he's going to be our slot. So I'm not really going to call him our number 3 because I think it depends on the formation and what Frank calls. But he's definitely going to be our slot. There's no doubt about that at all. I think if he stays healthy this year, he's going to be dangerous.
I agree. And then after him, it gets kind of thin. But our top 4 guys there, I'm looking forward to.
I like this one too. Zach says he's looking forward to seeing Mark Lewinsky and Danny Pinter. I'm looking forward to that too. And I think the reason I'm looking for that is because I don't like Lewinsky. I don't. When you would watch where most of the pressure came from last year, it was right at Glowinski, man.
Right.
Braden Smith played well on that right side, and Ryan Kelly obviously does a good job at calling out who needs to block who, you know? So Glowinski is I know you guys don't like to say it, but to me he is our weak link, even though it's not really
the weak one we have, yeah.
So
yeah, I kind of forgotten about this one, but by all accounts, Danny Pinter is a steal. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings in.
I agree with that one too. Kyle Stewart here says Pittman and Pascal for wide receiver too, and just like we said, man, I think it's going to be between them two. You know, who would have thought before last season that Pascal would be competing for that number 2 spot?
Right.
I thought it would have been, Pittman and Pascal, or not Pascal, Pittman and Campbell, but Pascal just amazed us all last year in what he was able to do. So I agree. I think
it'll come out to be Pittman ultimately because I believe Rivers will favor throwing to Pittman more because of his size and just what he's used to and everything. And obviously his ability, his potential. You know, Pittman's a beast, no putting him past that. But I think Pascal gives him a run for his money. I think ultimately he'll end up as a very strong number 3 for us.
I agree. What does everybody think about the competition between Trey Burton and Jack Doyle? I don't think any of us are really talking about that tight end spot. And Trey Burton has been a starter as a tight end in other places, and now we've got him with Jack Doyle. And you're putting Trey Burton back with Frank Wright. So what do you guys think about that competition in that room?
So actually, I honestly didn't see it as much of a competition. I've always just given it right to Doyle. But I mean, it is a fair point to bring up, especially now that he's back in something he's familiar with. I hope to see the most out of him that he can bring. I don't think he unseats Doyle as the starter though, not yet.
Yeah,
I can't really put Doyle as a starter because, I mean, Doyle wasn't a starter when we had Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener. And then he wasn't the starter when we had Eric Ebron. So Jack Doyle has never even really been the starter. Jack Doyle is a different type of tight end. He's more of the possession type guy. He's that guy you can rely on third down and short. He's not going to go down the field. You know, he never really has. And he's going to go down as soon as, he gets contact. So that's why I think Trey Burton and Jack Doyle is going to be a competition to watch. And just like Zach Davis here is saying, Burton is like a deeper threat like Ebron was. I really don't like the fact that we let Ebron walk, no matter what the situation was. Ebron seemed to like it here in Indy, and then all of a sudden he didn't like it here in Indy, which obviously was some kind of pretty boy type act of whatever he's got going on.
Yeah.
But I like that
we makes you wonder.
I really wonder about it. I don't know if anybody knows what really happened.
Yeah. I think this is another one, too, that ultimately comes down to Rivers and who he ends up favoring because they're both good tight ends. And Mo Alley-Cox isn't a scrub either. I don't think he's in the conversation to be a starter, though. But, it just comes down to who Rivers favors. I think Doyle beats him out for the spot just because he's been here so long and he's dependable, but Burton might surprise us. I hope he does.
Well, one thing that we maybe are underselling is the pass blocking potential. And Doyle, as far as I know, is one of the better tight ends to be a pass blocker.
Yep.
I think he was number one in the league in 20 until he got hurt.
No, yeah, he is known for pass blocking, and if I remember correctly, so was Dwayne Allen. Dwayne Allen was known for being a very, very good pass blocker, and we traded him.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think Jack Doyle is going to be used more as a pass blocker type tight end with the play action play calling, and I think Trey Burton is going to be more in that spread offense that we might use with Phillip Rivers, So I do think the tight end room is just being ignored.
Right.
There's one competition that everybody keeps ignoring, not ignoring but bringing up, and I just keep shaking it off. Is the Taylor and Marlon Mack competition?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would see it as a competition. What about you guys?
I don't. I see it as a run committee personally.
Yeah. So what?
I think it's just that people don't really see that one as a competition, and so they're and that's why they're kind of writing it off, like you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's brought up everywhere. It's like because Marlon Mack's in the contract year too, so everybody's like, well, is Jonathan Taylor going to take over? Is he going to have more yards than Marlon Mack? And I really don't think that there's going to be more yards between the two. I think it's going to be a pretty good even amount of yards or touchdowns. But they're two different style backs. I was talking to a friend yesterday at work about it, with Marlon Mack being more of a power back and Jonathan Taylor being more of a cut guy. So they're two different style backs. I think we should keep them both. Even next year, I think we need to re-sign Marlon Mack.
I agree.
Ashley said me and Rob talk about it all the time, and we do. But I really think that Marlon Mack should stay if we want to keep that 1-2 punch, and then we keep, Nyheim Hines.
I will say too, it depends what Mack asks for. If he has like a huge year and he's asking for like, league-breaking money, then let him walk. Let somebody else overpay him. But if he's willing to take even a good, I'm not even saying like a team-friendly, like not getting what he deserves. Like we can pay him what he deserves without overpaying him and still keep him around. Now I'd still be down for that because I think that dude just has such a huge impact on our team.
Yeah, I agree, man. I don't think Marlon Mack's going to really ask for too much money. I think he likes being in Indianapolis because I think that we're going to use him more than somebody else would, to be honest. He's running behind one of the better offensive lines in the league. I don't think if I'm a running back, I'm going to stay with that offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely.
If down the line he starts to lose reps because of Jonathan Taylor, that's the only way I really see him walking.
Right. And honestly, this offense is built for a running back like him and Mack, or him and Taylor rather. So yeah, I agree. I don't see why you would want to leave that when they're basically centered around you, and you're still the number one guy for future notice. Right.
So
only reason I tend to disagree with his success being based on the offensive lines is that 2017 season. He came in and looked the best out of any of our running backs behind that crappy line.
Yeah.
But again, that's 3 years ago. So
Right. And it's not like his ability is entirely dependent on the offensive line, but the line definitely doesn't hurt him, Without our line, without our line, he's a good back. But with our line, he's a game changer.
And that's the way I look at it is it's not that he needs our offensive line. It's that as a running back, you want that offensive line.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's like, do you want to go from, as a running back who's got to run behind that offensive line, do you want to go from having a top 3 offensive line to having the 32nd rank offensive line?
Right.
I don't think so. You're going to get beat up, Yeah. So I think, he performed really well in 2017 with our really shitty O-line. And now that we have a really good O-line, he's going to want to stay. And the way this team is going is it's built for the future. minus Phillip Rivers, which I really don't want to talk about that.
So let's not.
Well, and since we're talking about competitions, I think a signing that went a lot under the radar, which rightfully so, since we had just got Buckner too. But how about Sheldon Day coming in? I've been big on this since we got him. It's partly because I watched him in college too. But I don't know if he ends up being our second guy there. But I think he's definitely gonna give him a run for his money there and compete for that position.
So who is he competing with? Who would
I know Ture's up there. How about Nico Autry, guys like that? I just don't know where they end up sliding.
is playing on that. I don't think Sheldon. So yeah, I think Sheldon Day is a good signing because he played with Buckner.
Right.
And the only reason I asked of who he's competing with because, I mean, who have we had that's actually been the starter in that spot for the last 3 years?
That's what I'm saying. It's weird for me because I would say Nico Autry, but they also they move guys around. Like you'll have a guy at DT, but then he ends up playing on the edge sometimes too because we have a versatile defensive line to me. So I don't know exactly who he's competing with, but I do think Sheldon Day will be up there. Potentially as our number 2 guy, especially since he has chemistry with Buckner.
Now, who do you think is going to be that number 1 guy?
But
well,
Yeah,
no,
Buckner.
I mean, we're not running a 3-4 defense anymore. So you're going to have Buckner, and then you're going to have somebody next to him. So
yeah, that's true.
to me, I think it's going to be Taekwon Lewis.
Oh yeah.
And this year, Taekwon Lewis, or last year he was hurt. This year's a big year for him. He really needs to play his ass off
And stay healthy
Right.
because he was hurt 2 years ago too.
Kyle Stewart says Grover Stewart, and I've seen him play there too. I'm pretty
He's
sure
not
that
bad.
before Taekwon Lewis got injured, he was lights out last year. I can't remember his stats. I can fact check him, or if one of these viewers can fact check for me. I'm pretty sure he was top 5 in his position.
When did he get injured?
I can't remember, man. I'm pretty sure it was early. I'm gonna look it up right now. I just know that I've seen a lot about him.
He's really good at Ohio State too.
Yeah. So let's see, Taekwon Lewis. I just know that he was really high up there. I think last year he got injured after week 9.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. Somebody fact check me here.
Well, who was it who got hurt making that essentially the game-winning sack against Kansas City?
Oh, I don't know.
We had so many injuries there. I don't even remember now.
I'm about to look.
I think it was either him or Teray, and that ended up, I think, being a season ender.
Was it Danico Autry? Maybe.
I want to say Autry, but I really don't know.
But see, this is the problem, man. We've had so many people play in that spot. We had Margus Hunt, who, when we had Andrew Luck, was just lights out that year.
He was a monster.
2018.
Yeah.
And then we let him go. So now I'm just confused. I'm sitting here trying to fact check myself and keep the conversation rolling.
Yeah.
In 2019, it was Danico Autry had 20 tackles, 32 combined in 14 games. So Lewis played in 9 games. Autry played in 14, I think. So Zach over here we go. We finally got some help. Let's see. I can dig this. All right, we got Autry on one side, Buckner, Turay, Houston.
And if we keep the other guys, we still have Stewart and Lewis on for depth. I mean, that's a nasty defensive line.
That is nasty. Don't forget about Bonagoo, man. We still got Ben Bonagoo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I did forget about it.
We got Quaden Muhammad. Is he the same Muhammad we've had? He's got a crazy name. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is, because it's a year or two
or
ago,
something. Yeah.
my dad and I go to the same dentist is the official Colts dentist, and my dad saw him at the dentist one time, so that's definitely the same guy.
Okay, so we know he's gonna be there too as a depth guy. He's been a depth guy for us for years, I think, and I think he's gotten a lot of playing time with us.
Right.
I think one of my favorite names that we have on the defensive front, outside of Buckner, and Houston, is Turay. I like Turay. I've been watching him this offseason. He's been working with Robert Mathis this whole offseason, so I think he's going to be a stud this year. You guys know I'm trying to bring that guy on the show, man. he responded. He's
awesome.
talked to me. He just hasn't said anything about coming on the show, so I'm really on just him to be like, hey, man,
Gotta
come
get
on.
him.
So,
Right. I think it's important, though. It's super important that we have this much depth on the D line because there is concern about injuries, right? Like Audrey's been injured, Turay's been injured. People have said Houston is injury prone. He didn't get injured for us last year, but he may have that history of being injured before. I'm not going to get into that, but there is the concern of some of our guys do get injured easily. So, like, it's important that we have this many guys in case one does go down.
You know, and it's funny, too, because a lot of people said, a lot of Chiefs fans were like, oh, you can have Justin Houston. He's old. He's injury prone. The dude has only missed 4 games in, like, 3 years or something.
Right. Yeah, that's why I said some would say that. Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so that's like saying T.Y. Hilton is injured. The most games he's missed this season was last year. So he's not injury prone. He's, and T.Y. Hilton is a guy you would expect to be injury prone because he's so small. But Houston's not injury prone. And last year,
and
he had double-digit sacks as a 31-year-old.
Right.
I'm pretty sure 31 last season, and he had double-digit sacks. He also was the reason we were able to he was also the reason we were able to finish that win against the Chiefs. So
didn't they get like a 3rd and like 20 something to a 4th and 1, and we're like,
and Houston got that tackle in the backfield.
He popped off after that. I was happy for him after that one.
I'm pretty sure he got a sack in every game after that. I think that's what it was. He got a game in every sack after that. That dude was like on point. I knew it was like 5 or 6 games in a row he has a sack. I don't remember where he missed another one, but I know it's like 5 or 6 games in a row he had a sack. I like Justin Houston, man. I don't care about how old he is. He's one of those guys where I'll play him till he's 40 if he keeps getting double-digit sacks.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say he might have he might have an even better season this year playing alongside Buckner. I think he could even improve on his number of sacks.
That's what scares me. We all talk about, Darius Leonard having a great year because of the signing of Buckner, but we forget about what Justin Houston is going to be able to do. When you have a guy who's going to take at least a double team in the middle of the line, Justin Houston is going to be able to do whatever he wants on the edge.
It's huge. So huge.
Well, hey, I think it's that time for me. I got to cut out of this one.
All right, man.
Yeah.
I know you got some stuff you got going on, so we'll see you next week, man.
No
Take
problem.
care, boss.
I can't wait to talk about next week. I've actually been pretty excited to talk about the lines.
Yep, next week is definitely offensive line and defensive line. So
we'll get into more of it.
We have the most players in. So, like, we're so deep in offensive line and defensive line. I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm like, my God. That's where most of the cuts are going to be. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I'll catch you guys later, all right?
All right, take care, bro.
You too.
All right, Matt, so you want to do like a quick recap of who all we cut this week?
Yeah, all right, man. So as far as I'm tracking, this week we cut Donald Rutledge and Roland Milligan. That's out of our safeties. And then in our corners,
George Odom is a potential guy.
Yeah, George Odom is potential. And then we cut Picasso Nelson and Jackson Porter out of the corners. And then we cut most out of the linebackers, which is Franklin, Glasgow, and Wellington with a possible Sky Moore. I don't think we cut Sky Moore, though. I really think Sky Moore stays. Yeah. He's really good on special teams. So I really don't think we cut him.
I agree. I always keep those potential guys that are like borderline making the roster, though. I think he's one of those guys.
Yeah, me too, man. So today we actually
That's actually surprising. Yeah, we'll probably have to give a once over and see who else could go. But it was tough, man. With somebody like, there's so many young players we have in these three positions that I just don't want to get rid of. Like, I want to keep them and see them grow to their potential.
But if you look at our offensive line and defensive line, man, we're so deep that a lot of the cuts can come from there.
Yeah.
We can, and then we'll look at some other guys that are possible cuts. Last week we cut a lot of guys, man. We cut a lot of running backs and wide receivers. So I think next week we'll probably catch up to where we need to be on the cutting. This week was tough though because we're not really deep at safety. We're not very deep at corner, and linebacker we're not very deep either. So
yeah, I had thought we were a lot deeper at DBs until we really started to look at it. I was like, dang, there's not as many high profile players as I thought we had.
Right, DBs as a whole, we're pretty deep. But
when you break it up, yeah,
it's definitely not. I mean, we got 6 safeties, you know what I'm saying, and I think maybe like 8 or 9 corners, you know, and there's potential.
It's like ultimately,
yeah, go ahead.
It's like ultimately, I really only trust 2 of those safeties with Hooker and Willis. I hope to trust Blackman, but I mean, you haven't seen anything from it yet.
And Blackman is where the question mark comes in because you're like, well, we drafted a guy who just, you know, tore his ACL. Malik Hooker has ACL injury or ACL issues. So now we're putting a question mark on, is Julian Blackman going to be the replacement for Hooker, or do we sign Hooker?
Right.
And then Blackman plays in that strong safety spot because, you know, nowadays football, it's not really free safety, strong safety anymore. Nowadays it's just safety. So I mean, we could see them both on the field at the same time, which to me, if they're both healthy, that's scary.
Yeah, I agree.
Scary. And Khari Willis is going to be that hybrid style guy. Right. He's very good at coverage.
Do you think it's possible if Blackman comes on strong and like comes out healthy early on, and if Khari Willis is playing well, do you think we look to move Hooker? If a good deal presents itself, I mean, would you look to move him or keep him even if it's just for the rest of the year?
We could, because if Blackman outperforms Hooker, I could see it because Blackman's going to be the cheaper option than Hooker. Blackman's going to save us about 3-4 years before we have to deal with another contract. And if Hooker outperforms Blackman, we could be looking at way too much money to be paying Hooker. So
right, no doubt.
And as much as I like Hooker, and we all like Hooker, it's going to be cheaper with Blackman if he outperforms Hooker. So that's ultimately what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about Blackman too. I did some reading into him, like after we drafted him, just to figure out who this guy is. I know Chris Ballard was huge on him. I heard him talking about him in one of his interviews, and he was really excited to get the guy. So that makes me feel good. It's interesting too, though. Like his teammate was still available from Utah. His fellow safety from Utah was still available when we had that pick, and obviously his ACL isn't torn. So it made me wonder, like, why we didn't go after that guy. But Chris Ballard was just talking about him, just pumping him up, saying like, you know, he couldn't believe this guy was even still available. He's not even worried about the ACL, you know, stuff like that. So that makes me feel pretty good about him. I hope he comes on strong, though.
It just worries me when you bring up an ACL. You know, ACL scares me. So like I've had an ACL injury for 2 years. I tore my ACL and my meniscus 2 years ago in June. It'll be 2 years in June. I haven't gotten surgery yet because you know me, I don't like Army doctors.
Right.
I don't like doctors in general, but then you bring Army
some water and ibuprofen. Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna try and do surgery on the wrong knee. It's back the same. That's what scares me because it'll affect how he moves, how he cuts, how fast he can change direction. So that's what scares me. I mean, they have doctors that are over the line doctors. They're a lot better than the type of doctors we have. You know, for soldiers like us, you know, we have a torn ACL. They're going to reconstruct it, but they're going to reconstruct it as cheap as they can because we don't need it
out there.
Yeah, we don't need it to go into combat. So athletes obviously get better medical care. So it's just scary to see because you can see like Look at Carson Wentz. He took a couple knee injuries. He comes back. He's wearing a knee brace. You don't want to see that as a safety.
Right.
As a quarterback, it's a little different. You don't have to cut and change direction as fast as safeties do.
Especially when your game is dependent on that. Yeah.
Right. So Blackman is such a question mark to me, even though when I watch his highlights, it hypes me up, and I'm so excited.
I agree.
I think we're in a good position. If it doesn't work out with Blackman because of his injury, and Hooker outperforms him, then we keep Hooker. If Blackman comes back from his injury and outperforms Hooker, we can get rid of Hooker. So either way, I think we're in a great position.
What do you think about the rumors that Jamal Adams might be available for trade? That is.
That's always been a rumor. The Jets have put out multiple times that Jamal Adams isn't there, and if he is there, if he is available, and Jets are just playing it off, I don't want to trade for him. I've said I do, but Jamal Adams, what they would ask for is at least a first and a third. We already traded a first-round pick away. And the question mark for me at the first-round pick is quarterback, right? I'm so high on Eason, and I've said it all week. But I still have my question mark around him because of what he's got going on in here. He's got the arm, strength, but he's not smart. So
yeah,
I mean, we'd ultimately be taking a guy who's going to turn the ball over a lot. So to me, I think we can't trade around that first round pick because if we have a mid first round pick next year, I'd take that as a win, and we could still get a solid quarterback in the first round next year. So I don't want to trade that away for Jamal Adams when we still have Malik Hooker and Willis.
So do you think then potentially we take a quarterback next year in the draft?
We could, depending on how this year goes, right? So if we get a 2019 Rivers, we're going to need to look in the draft. I know that me and Ashley and a whole lot of people are big on Eason, right? And I don't think it's that we're big on Eason. I think it's that we have high hopes because he's young, and that we drafted him. But ultimately, he's a fourth-round pick. And Ballard and Frank have both said they're not big on him. I don't think Frank is big on him at all. I don't think Frank likes him one bit. So honestly,
he just fell into their laps. Yeah.
Right. If I'm being realistic, Eason is never going to start for us, ever. He might beat out Chad Kelly for that third string spot, but I don't see him ever starting for us. I see if we have a 2019 Rivers and we end up getting a mid first round pick, anywhere between 10 and 20, we could take a quarterback, and that quarterback could easily be who takes over. I just think trading away that pick 2 years in a row is crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's just tough too because now we've kind of undermined Jacoby Brissett to the point where I don't think he'll ever be the starter for us again. I think he probably plays this year as the backup, and then he's gone. He's going to walk somewhere else. And Rivers, no matter how good Rivers plays, he has maybe 2 maximum years left with us, if that. He might just play this year and retire. So it does leave us in a tough position as far as the future goes.
Right. And I don't think any quarterback on our roster right now is the future. That's obvious. Phillip Rivers is 38 years old. There's no way he's our future. He's obviously just our right now. And that's why I question the signing so much because, maybe we win a championship this year, but what happens next year? What happens the year after that when he's 40? I don't think I don't know, man. I think so we've traded away our first round pick the last 2 years. And I know we traded away the year before during the draft. We moved back in the second round. I think we were at 28th pick that year or 29th or something. Yeah. And then this year we traded for Buckner, which to me was a solid trade. But we're not going to get that lucky. We're not going to get that lucky 2 years in a row. Hold on. Zach says, Who, Zach? Zach
I think he's
saying
talking about Eason.
Eason?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he's saying that
If Frank and CB loved Eason so much, would they be competing with Chad Kelly? That's my main question.
yeah, that's fair too.
Chad Kelly competed with Philip Walker, right? And then they didn't feel comfortable enough with Chad Kelly. They started Brian Hoyer, or they brought Brian Hoyer in to be our backup. So this whole thing is they're not big on Eason at all, because you got to look at what they did last year, right? If they were big on Eason, they would have been big on Chad Kelly, and they would have made that competition more important. But it's not. It's not
Right.
important. It's for the third string spot. So
Yeah,
maybe you're right. Maybe they're big on him and they have some kind of secret plan for next year. But I just don't see it. When they instantly drafted him and said, "Oh, he has to make the roster," right? He has to compete with Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly barely made the roster. Everybody got so hyped on Chad Kelly because Chad Kelly ran for 30 plus yards in one preseason game against third string defensive players. So I don't know, man. Yeah, he's a rookie, but he's a
I think
fourth
ultimately
pick. He just fell in their lap.
right. I think ultimately they don't seem big on Eason because it's like they already have their quarterback set in place here. And they've said that multiple times with Rivers and then Brissett as the number 2. That's what they're set on. You can't pass on Eason in the 4th round. You have to take him.
Yeah,
so that's why it was a good pick, and it was a pick that I think needed to happen. But they didn't seem huge on it because it probably didn't fit what they planned on. And now they're like, well, we brought him in, but we don't want everyone to think he's the savior of the franchise because we're not there yet. I think if anything, they might just be trying to keep the pressure off of him because like some people, they saw Eason was picked. They saw we got a young quarterback and they started crowning him the next Andrew Luck. And he's not, it's going to take him a while.
Right. And you've seen me all week. I argued this all week. I had that conversation with Rob. I said it. I said, look, he could be our 2021 starter. He could be our 2022 starter, right? He could be. And I like Eason because of his arm strength, because of where he puts the ball. He doesn't just peg it, He's not playing baseball. He's smart about how he throws it, where he throws it, the velocity he puts on it. He's got touch. The only thing I question is just, what he's got between the ears. The guy can't move around a pocket. He can't. He cannot control a pocket. That's going to take time to learn, especially when you couldn't do it in college. You got to learn how to do it in the NFL. And the NFL, these guys are a whole lot faster. They're doing a whole lot more different things than what he's used to seeing. He's going to have to learn to do snap reads better. He's going to have to learn to do post-snap reads faster. And that's just it to me. But I've even said it all week, and you saw it. Ashley saw it. Jeff saw it. It was me and Rob. I think Eason could be the guy eventually. I just don't see CB and Frank being so high on him that he's competing with Chad Kelly. So it doesn't show what they feel is his importance as a 4th-round pick.
Well, I would say this too. He does have all that to work on. You're absolutely right. But I think he's in the perfect room to work on that. Behind Frank Reich, who's a great QB coach. Our offensive coordinator is great. All of our coaching staff is great. You have Philip Rivers, who has years of experience. So some people said maybe he's not the best mentor. I don't know. I'm not his teammate, but it can't hurt, right? When the guy's played for however many years and you get to play behind him. And then Jacoby Brissett, by all means, the best backup, the best teammate you could ask for. He's definitely going to help out Eason. So I think if there's anywhere Eason can succeed and really learn these things that he's failing on, it's here with us. So I think he's in a perfect position for himself, honestly.
I agree. I said it 2 days ago. You saw it. I said it. I think our coaching staff is the perfect coaching staff for him to have. I'm just playing devil's advocate here because it's like I could look at it both ways. Eason could eventually be our starter. I like Eason, right? I've watched him so much that I've said I've liked him. I've seen what he can do physically. I just want to see him improve. And he's got Frank Reich. He's got our whole coaching staff, Nick Sirianni and everything. I don't care if Philip Rivers is a good mentor, right? Because do I want the guy who throws interceptions left and right to mentor my young quarterback? No. I want JB, who is smart. And he's just sitting there in that second, QB spot that could teach him. He's got the time. Teach him, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And on the other hand, if Eason completely flops and both of our quarterbacks leave.
Right. I agree with what Zach said.
About him getting better time.
Drafting Eason is like cooking pot roast low and slow. So you put him in a crock pot, and by 9 o'clock at night, you got a good roast, right? Or by 5 o'clock, you put it in by 5 o'clock, get a good roast. So
or by
I've said it all. Yeah, I mean I think that he's in the perfect position to succeed being in Indy. He's got a good offensive line. He's got a good young roster. He's got a great coaching staff. I do think Eason can succeed here. Do I think Frank and CB see it? Maybe not. Do I think a lot of fans see it?
Yet.
No. I had a fan tell me Chad Kelly beats out Eason. I think he's crazy. I think he's smoking some dope.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance. Yeah.
No, not at all. All right. Well, before we, since we got so far into that, let's close this up tonight. We're getting a little late here. So this week we've cut 7, maybe 8, depending on Sky Moore. Next week we're gonna do our lines, offensive and defensive lines, and it will be the completion of our roster cut. The next week we'll do our practice squad, who makes the practice squad, and then we'll get further into that. So we appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate everybody commenting. You see, if you're watching, you didn't comment, we can bring your comments up. We like talking to you guys. Zach knows we like talking to you guys. Zach wants us to talk about kickers. We'll add kickers into next week. Thanks. I'll add that. I appreciate everybody coming out and watching. Trev, it was definitely fun. Andy left early. It was fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
I will get into Rob.
Shout out to Rob, man.
Yeah. I don't know where Rob is.
He's all right.
He's probably sleeping. We'll definitely see what happened with Rob. But appreciate everybody coming out and watching. It was a good night. All right, everybody. Definitely have a good one. We'll see you all next week. Make sure to share this podcast. If you enjoy talking with us, go ahead and share it. Get more people to come out and watch with us. We're not professionals at this. We don't, do this to act like we're smarter than everybody else. We want to hear what you say. We like the interaction. We like when everybody's talking with us. That's why we do this. Let's bring everybody together. All right. So everybody have a good Saturday. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Pat McAfee's lost his mind.
That's Mathis. The Colts have the football. Steps up. Throws one over the intercepted. Marlon Jackson. Marlon got it. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to the Super Bowl.
The rivalry is back on.